Rich Dotson is the co-founder and owner of Dynasty Nerds, who's also done work for ESPN Cleveland. He loves all things Cleveland sports. He's a Buckeye, a snowboarder, a Stephen King fan, and he's not afraid to make bold moves to win now in Dynasty. These are his late-round perspectives. This episode is sponsored by DraftKings. There's no better way to lock in your fantasy dominance early than with Best Ball on DraftKings, where you draft once and ride your roster all season long. And right now, DraftKings is giving all customers a can't-miss offer. Draft one, get one. Enter a lineup in the $15 million Best Ball contest for just $20, and you'll score another Best Ball ticket to play free for a share of that $15 million, giving you a second shot to win big. It's easy. Just draft your dream team once, no weekly management required, and let your top scorers automatically start each week. Across the whole season, every breakout star, every clutch play, every touchdown will count towards your quest for a share of $15 million. I'm drafting over there all the time. It's an absolute blast. So download the DraftKings Daily Fantasy app now to draft your $20 Best Ball lineup to play for a share of $15 million and get a second ticket to play free for a share of that $15 million. That's two chances to win big without ever setting your lineup again. Draft one, get one, only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. One per customer. Enter the Best Ball $15 million headliner contest by 9/4/25 to get one bonus entry. $20 entry fee required. Reward expires in 30 days. See terms at DraftKings.com/NFL-best-ball. Sponsored by DK. Now back to the show. I was putting my clothes on today, and I just threw on a hat, and I realized that I'm wearing not just a Pittsburgh Pirates hat, but it's like just a Pittsburgh hat. Like there's just like an image of Pittsburgh here in the front. And then I'm like, man, I'm talking to Rich. I'm talking to a Cleveland guy. Well, I feel like I'm not being very inviting and welcoming here.
And that's fine. I literally just put away my Pittsburgh Pirates t-shirt.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That's really crazy you say that, because I literally just put away that I bought at Pirate Stadium like a couple of weeks ago, because like I grew up, my grandfather was a big Pittsburgh fan, and he got me into the Pirates real early. So my National League team is the Pirates. Don't follow them closely, but like big Paul Skeens fan, and reminds me of my grandfather. And I'm not one of those guys that says like, man, listen, if you're from the area, that's your team. I have no qualms for them. Right. Sport. You should be just as passionate you are about Pittsburgh or Tampa Bay or wherever as I am about Cleveland, right? Like, represent the city. I have like issues just with people like, hey, I live in Cleveland. I'm a New York Yankees fan, a Dallas Cowboys fan. You're like, come on, bro. Like, come on.
I can't back that. But here's the other thing though, too, is were you born and raised Cleveland? You were just in Cleveland forever. Yeah. So I was born and raised Pittsburgh. I haven't lived in Pittsburgh for 14 years at this point. So I'm born and raised, and I went to Pitt. And then ever since graduating college, I lived in Cincinnati for a little bit. Now I've been in Charlotte for about a decade. But to me, like Cleveland and Pittsburgh both are the kind of cities that it is just in your blood when you are born and raised in that environment. So it's even crazier when I remember when people would like come to school in like a Broncos jersey or something. I'm like, what are you like? Who don't even have ties? Like, there's no like familial ties to it or anything like that. I'm like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? It's crazy.
Yeah, have some loyalty to the city you're from, or at least like say you grew up. Like I have a buddy who's from LA, born and raised in LA, and he's a diehard Chiefs fan, but has been forever. And because when Joe Montana got traded to the Chiefs, he was a Joe Montana's fan. So when he was little, he was like, that makes sense to me, right? Another thing. Pre-Pat Mahomes, the Chiefs were terrible. So like it makes a lot of sense. But yeah, I'm a big hometown guy. Sports is obviously runs through my blood. And Pittsburgh and Cleveland are very similar cities in so many different ways, or so many of the same ways. And sports is one thing that really ties those cities together.
I got to say this too. This is one of the few times in my life where Cleveland sports are objectively better than Pittsburgh sports right now. Because, if you think about it, because obviously the Steelers are a little bit better than the Browns, but the and then, but like the Cavs are good, and the Penguins have been horrible, since they've won their back-to-back cups. And then, the difference then, would be in baseball, and at least the Guardians are competitive. The Pirates are the Pirates. It's one of the most depressing. It's honestly very difficult for me to back a team like that when ownership doesn't care at all.
Yeah, it blows my mind going to Pirates games, and like I've been to 2, and in both games I've been to, it's crazy. In between innings, constantly the fans screaming in unison, "Sell the team." Yeah, right. I'm like, do they do this all the time? And the guy behind me is like, we do it all the time. And it sucks, man, because like when you have an owner in sports, if you're passionate about it, like knowing you have no chance. Definitely, I'm lucky enough where the Indians Guardians are an extremely well-run organization, right? They're competitive year in, year out, have been since 1995 for the most part. It's a very long time. So like they have a team you root for in a league that doesn't have a salary cap or a salary floor like baseball, knowing like your owner is holding you back from a sport that you're passionate about. Like I don't even know how I could live with that.
Oh, I've become far less of like baseball was my sport growing up. Like I played and I watched like crazy, especially in the late 90s with during the steroid era. It was just so much fun. I mean, I know why it was as fun as it was, but it was still just so much fun, during that era. But like I look at baseball now and it's just very, very difficult for me to just get excited about it because my team, I grew up going to Three River Stadium and then into PNC Park and going to Pirate games all the time. And I've only had in my lifetime, like I'm 37 in my lifetime, I was 4 years old whenever they went to like the NLCS and stuff in the early 90s. But in my lifetime, they've had like 2 or 3 good seasons and that's it. And it's mind boggling to think about in a 30-year plus time frame. It was the 2012 range or what have you when McCutchen was there and they were able to beat the Reds in the wild card game and stuff like that. But like, it's depressing. It's very, very depressing.
It could ruin the sport for you. Like I said, it makes baseball not feel like, why am I going to watch it? Same thing. As much as passionate I am about like the Guardians, like I got Guardians tattoos, Indian tattoos on me. It's like, if they're really bad, baseball is a hard sport to watch.
It is exactly
bad, right? Yes. Like it really is. You're like, what am I doing? Like you're literally just wasting your time. Love it if they're good or competitive, but bad sports.
At least in football, teams turn it around, and if you get a franchise quarterback, then all of a sudden you have hope and stuff like. The Pirates are you have arguably the best young pitcher in baseball right now, and he's not going to be on the team in X amount of time. It's just the reality of the situation.
And it makes it just as sad. Like, dude, I got one of the best pitchers to come out. Like, there's like young pitching is not being good in baseball for a while, right? Like you go back to like Steven Strasburg for the Nationals and like he blew his arm out and all these young guys blow their arms out. And then you finally get one that's like a superstar and you're sitting there going, yeah, he's leaving first time. Like he's out of here.
It's like he's gonna be gone. It's just it's really, really tough. All right. So we've touched on a little bit of your background of who you are being a Cleveland guy, but there's obviously a lot more to it. I like to start these Perspectives episodes with just sort of a rundown of the guests' background within the fantasy space. So let us know how this all started, why you got into it, and why you're doing the Dynasty Nerds thing.
Yeah. So it started with my passion of just sports and football in general. And, like you mentioned, being a Browns fan, like we've been terrible since 1999. Like it's been abysmal. Nobody's had it worse than Browns fan. If you go to my X account, you can see my Browns rant that's pinned to my top. If you want to get a grasp of Cleveland misery, I do 11-minute rant on it. But, that being said, like I got really into the NFL draft because that was like our Super Bowl, right? Like we always had a top 10 picks. So like I was studying like these rookies, like not out of like fantasy football defensive players, because I wanted to know like how the Browns were going to get better and who they won the draft. Like so I'm sitting there and I'm knowing all these prospects going off the board. And I was really into fantasy football. So right around 2003, like I discovered like, hey, there's a way to play. I heard it's called this game of Dynasty where you can draft like teams, keep them forever. And I was doing pretty good at fantasy at the time. And then like I was so into rookies, like if you study rookies, you keep those forever too. So I was like, oh, dude, I'm gonna start a Dynasty league. Had no idea what it was about or anything. Literally made up the rules with my friends as we went along. Really cool. They kind of like transpired into like how people do play Dynasty as well. Like we used to call the taxi squad our practice squad, trying to run it that way through NFL. Want to really start, like I ended up writing some fantasy articles for a website probably back in like 2010 because I was just really passionate about the game of fantasy. And I kept trying. I had a buddy who made websites, and I was just kept trying to like, I was like, hey, dude, we should create a Dynasty website. There's like no information out there on Dynasty. There's no good websites. And this is like pre-DLF even, who were like first. And Scott Fish with Fantasy Oasis. And I was like, and finally one day he came over to my house and he's like, dude, he's like, this is 2013. And he's like, all right, I'll create you a website. He's like, but I have one rule. And what I asked for one thing you have to do. He's like, you got to create a podcast. So and I'm like, what's a podcast? And he's like,
right. Yeah.
Let's go on the internet. I'm like, all right, dude, that's what it takes. That's what it's going to take. So, started Dynasty Nerds in late 2013, started a podcast, and the podcast started to take off pretty quickly. Pretty like we had nothing to compare it to. We didn't know how well it was doing because we just we didn't know what numbers were good. It wasn't until I got a job with ESPN in Cleveland. And I was like, hey, our podcast does these numbers. Is that good? And they're like, dude, that's really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should probably start advertising on that because we didn't even advertise. We just did our show.
Right.
And just started from there, man, really getting into kind of like same purpose I have today. Like the whole reason I wanted to start Dynasty Nerds from the first place is I wanted to grow the game of Dynasty, right? Like I wanted to talk about it. Me and my friends always talked about it. I just wanted people, hey, you got to try this game out because if you like fantasy, you're going to love Dynasty. So my mission statement from the get-go is, like just to innovate the game, like to get it in people's eyes. And, now that we have the resources and the views and the money to do so, like it's great to be able to build the tools that I envision that would really help Dynasty players take their game to another level. So man, just been in the Dynasty game for a very long time and just really want to grow the game and help the users be better players overall.
So when you went out and started the podcast, are you like me where if you were to listen to one of your first episodes, you're just like, I physically like get sick listening to how bad, so not just the advice, but just like the presence and like doing all of it. I would imagine though, like I started Living the Stream, my other podcasts are probably around the same time, but, this show I started, Perspectives I started like 2 years ago, but this show, the Late Round Podcast in 2017, even listening back to the 2017 stuff, I'm like, no, this is horrific. But I would imagine though, doing it that long ago, you would have just had no clue as to like what the right cadence is on a show in general. Like to be fair, even podcasts today, there's not that much transparency of like, who's doing really well and who's not, and like what the numbers are and stuff like that. It's just like part of what the podcasting world is. But I just can't even fathom what it would be like back then doing a show that no one else is really doing. I mean, was it just, I'm assuming it was just incredibly difficult.
Yeah. It was 11 years ago. So it's kind of like, I would love to hear that back. I think somebody played to me like 5 years ago and I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're right. Like, this is right. But at the same time, just like most people, like, I don't like hearing my voice. I think my voice is terrible. Obviously, I sometimes just speak with a lisp. I don't like seeing myself. Like I was on TV for a little while, and I was like, dude, people are like, oh, you want? Like, I don't ever watch it. 0%. I hate it. I hate it. So going back then, I think I remember hearing it like sometime back, going, yeah, that was abysmal. The sound quality was really good because that's something like. When we started listening to when I figured out I had to do a podcast, I started listening to other podcasts. I'm like, who listens to this? Like this sounds like you're talking through a water jug in your mom's basement.
Right.
So like the one thing we did, like, and what we try to always do is like, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. Right. Like,
I like that. Yeah.
So we did put a lot of research, like in time and testing into equipment to make sure, or at least what we were saying and how like our cadence and going about it wasn't perfect, but like we wanted to make sure the sound was professional. And that came across well because, and honestly, that could have been one of the reasons why our podcast probably took off and did well. Yeah. It's like, hey, this is something I can actually listen to. Like now it's like just everybody expects it, right? Because it's a new thing. Like your picture camera is like 4K high quality. Your microphone is grade A. It's like, and everybody can do that off of Amazon now. And back then, Amazon didn't even exist, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, man, it is. It's hard to like look back in some of those years and watch the growing process and see how like raw you were in it. But with that rawness also came what I would appreciate too. I think probably for you and most people, it's like those early stages is like the passion is so strong, right? Look at me, look what I'm doing. Like I'm talking about, I'm finally doing this. Like there's a lot of stuff in going into like putting out a podcast and stuff. And that passion inside of you is like what's going to drive you to where you need to go. If you can, you can maintain that. But like, I would like to go back to hear like, yeah, the terribleness of us trying to run a show. But like, I would love to hear my takes and see how like I felt back then 11 years ago as well.
Yeah. My thing too is that like if you're not looking back at old takes and old things that you did and you know how you performed on a podcast, if you're not looking back and saying like, yeah, that was terrible, then you're not improving, right? Like you're not getting any better. I remember the first ever show I did, and some people still to this day remember this. This is back in 2012, I want to say. And it was a really, really small podcast, and but I'd never gone on a show before. And I'm not like a big drinker or, you know, even like I'm not one who would like, you know, take the edge off with a beer or whatever. But I remember before I went on the show, I slammed 2 beers. I went into this giant closet that because I was so nervous. I was just so anxious. And, you know, you look back at that though, and like the more reps you get, you know, the more comfortable you get. And that's just all a natural progression. But the audio thing I think is really important too, because to me, that's one of the main reasons like the fantasy footballers did what they did with like their audio is just out of control because they all have that kind of background. Like they actually understand, you know, what goes into that and why it matters, and they could optimize for it. And that's one of the reasons of many, you know, they're all very good at branding and all that as well. And they have great content, but that's one of the reasons why they were able to stand out, I think, too, is because around, you know, what I think they started maybe 2015, 2016, but like,
no, they started same time we did. Because I love getting the comments going because we've had the same intro for 11 years, and people are like, yeah, oh yeah, dude, way to steal the footballers intro. I'm like, dude, we've had the same intro since 2014. We started right around the same time. Like I think we started a little bit before the footballers. Like there's, if anything, they stole from us. And you're right. That's why. Like that means like it carries weight. It really does. Like. All those intangibles mean something, right? Like same thing. You can have a really strong camera and mic and really good voice, but if your takes are terrible, nobody's going to listen.
Right.
The opposite is you get really strong takes, but like if you're like mundane and boring and like your audio is bad, people aren't going to listen because there's definitely nowadays, right, JJ? There's a million options out for you to go ahead and find information on.
100%. So obviously you've been focused on Dynasty a lot. What's your mix in terms of Dynasty and redraft? Like whether you're talking your analysis or just the leagues that you play in, I know you're probably heavier Dynasty, but what does that look like on a year to year basis?
This nowadays it's predominantly just Dynasty. It really is. I have my couple redraft leagues that I've been playing in for like 30 years. I have those that I still play in. But now I think over like the last 5 years, it's pretty much strictly Dynasty. I was doing redraft stuff, you know, like being, you know, the popular of the show and stuff, like opened a lot of doors for me for like opportunity. Like I got a job with like ESPN Cleveland for a couple of years. I have my own show, radio show on Sundays, but redraft, right? I was on, there's a local TV show that's real popular on the same network that the Indians play on. And I was able to do that on TV for a couple of years as well. Again, strictly redraft. I had opportunity to write from like magazines over the years early on. Again, strictly redraft. So I use those as opportunity to like to promote myself, to find me, to again, then push you towards Dynasty. Mm-hmm. But now over the last, I think, 5 years, man, it's just really just Dynasty.
Yeah. So then with you being in the Dynasty game for so long, not to say that you're an old man at this point, but you know, being in the Dynasty game as long as you've been, what do you think is one thing that you wish every Dynasty manager sort of knew or thought about to take their game to the next level?
Oh, man, there's so many things. There really is. There's so many things I feel like, you know, like if you see me at the expo every year and I listen to my podcast, I pound the fact of like what I think the importance of having one of those elite tight ends, you know, like to get like the Trey McBrides, the Brock Bowers is something I always try to focus on if I can, because definitely in Dynasty where like over years teams like, you know, you're the bottom teams, the top teams like that's a one small position that can give you nobody else can have that, right? Because there's only a couple of those guys anyway. So like, and we did our show, you know, over the last 30 years, there's only been 22 tight ends over the last 30 years that have had at least two top 6 finishes in fantasy football. 22 in almost 30 years, right? So that's one of the things I talk about. But I think the biggest thing that people lose sight of in Dynasty that I would kind of hammer on is like, when you find yourself in the window of opportunity to win, to go all in and try to win. You know, I think people in Dynasty, it's easy to lose focus and not go all in because people don't want to trade their draft picks. Like if you follow me, like, in the industry, like I'm a big, like, if you're a contender, you shouldn't even have your draft picks. Like you should be trading those for guys that are going to help you win now. Older guys that have 2 to 3 years. Guys that are like, oh, I don't want to give up my first for him. He's only got like 2 years left. Oh, you mean 24 months, 2 fantasy football seasons where you can win back-to-back championships and be a legend in your league? 2 years? Like knowing the fact that, we've done historical studies. If you are a playoff team and you pick either 9, 10, 11, or 12. You're in those bottom 4 teams. So you're top 4 finisher in your league. Your first round pick historically has a 50-50 chance to be rosterable, JJ. Not like startable, rosterable. So like, I think too many people like focus on being paper pretty. I'm like, dude, my team in a couple of years is going to be unbeatable. Like I've been playing this game for 22 years. I've heard that a million times. It's come to fruition, I think, almost 0% of the time where those teams are unstoppable. So I think too many managers don't focus on going for the championship. Like, why do we play the game? We play to win, right? We want to win titles. I say it all the time. Like, nobody cares about how many times you came in second place. In my original Dynasty League, that's 22 years old, I've won it 3 times. And I've come in second place, I think 6 or 7 times. It's a lot. Like it hurts. It still hurts to this day. It's the only thing I really want to win. But like, I'm not gonna sit here and tell my grandkids like, oh, Grandpa, why you're Dynasty Nerds? Like, why is your name only on the trophy this many times? Well, grandson, I came in second place. 12. You don't care. I don't care about that. So I think when you have an opportunity, because those windows are small, let alone in redraft, but definitely in Dynasty where there's so many things change on a constant basis that could set you back. If you find yourself in a position to win, whether it be by surprise or you set yourself up there, try to make sure that you give yourself the best odds possible. Even if your Dynasty lineup looks fantastic, like trade away those seconds for old depth, just to have depth. Like put yourself in the best position to go all in. I say what's an overpay today can be an underpay tomorrow. And sometimes it's on rookie prospects, but sometimes it can be on older players as well because they got you where you needed to be, which is the top, right? Like, would you rather have a 50-50 gamble on some rookie or would you rather have the championship in your league, right?
Yeah.
Like for one player, 100% the championship. And I think too many players these days, not too many, but a lot of people, they're like, oh, dude, I can't give my first. That's an overpay. Like, says who?
Right.
Who says X? Says your league mate's an overpay? Like, and so like you have to be willing to overpay to win. Like you have nobody's just giving stuff away. So you have to be able to like slightly overpay. Is he worth the first? Maybe, maybe not. But will he help me win? And is that the cost of winning? Then so be it.
Yeah, I think look, you said these days. I think it is more these days, though. Like, I do think that there has been a shift in the way that, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, this is probably my biggest flaw, if you will, as a dynasty manager, is I play scared when I have to go in very, very strong at accumulating value, right? But then there's the production side. You need to get production eventually, right? Like, you need to actually produce. And I think, though, that like the way that analysts speak and the way that the conversation flows within the dynasty space, maybe it's the notion of, productive struggle and that idea of, during startups and like getting and how that can set you up so well, for later seasons. But whatever it may be, I do think that there is a problem right now in the space. And I'm guilty of it, where people are too afraid. They're too afraid to get rid of some of these assets and these pieces that are deemed valuable by things like trade calculators. And that's another thing that I want to ask you about, because I get this question all the time and I have a take on it, but I'm way more curious to hear your take on it because, you've been in the game so long. But what are your general thoughts on trade calculators? They're everywhere now. Most sites have them. A lot of sites have them. Do you see the pros or are you more seeing the cons and you just kind of avoid them?
All right. So I got 2 things to basically say about trade calculators. One is I think they're a great tool for introductory, like dynasty players, right? Yeah. Like it's hard to grasp value. And it's so like, if you're new to the game, you don't understand the value of like, oh, like this old player versus rookie that you don't know, but he's got a high upside, like a Mecca Buka who doesn't say like week 9, he hasn't done anything yet. Right. And then somebody's offering you Mike Evans. You're like, oh, Mike Evans for a Mecca Buka. Fair. Cause you don't know. Right. Like, so I think trade calculators are a great baseline for like new players, like to help them kind of get their feet wet and understand like hey, like this calculator says like I'm like it's way off, right? Like I'm getting like bent over and this is not fun. So I think they do serve a purpose for that role. What I don't like is when somebody sends me a screenshot of like, oh, this trade calculator says it's fair. It's like, listen, dude, what's the value is what, like, same thing. If somebody knocks on your home and they're like, hey, I want to buy your home. You set the price, right? They don't tell you, hey, I want to buy your home for $100,000 or $500,000. You set the price. It's your home. If you have that player, it's what it's value to you, right? I say it all the time. Like every league is its own ecosystem.
Yes.
And
yes.
You'll see a player get traded in one league that would never happen in another league ever in a million years. And because like every team structures differently, everybody's personality is different. How they value players compared to draft picks is different. So like it's hard to use a calculator for that reason. That being said, that is why at Dynasty Nerds, we created our trade calculator in our app, which is Dynasty GM, is you can input your own rank set into the app, right? So you get the app run off of Dynasty Nerds. You could run, you could take JJ Zacharysen's rankings and put them in there, and the whole app will run off of like yours or JJ's or anybody else you see, the footballers, anybody you want to see. And then now if you want to run it through the calculator, that will tell you if it's fair in your eyes, right? Or this person's eyes. So we create a calculator where, because everybody says like, oh, that website doesn't know what they're talking about. Their value too low. Okay, well, put your own values in there and have it run off of that. And then I think sometimes it's good to have where like, if you have it that way, you can check yourself. Like, do I really think this is fair? And then you run it through your own calculator. Like, oh, wow, this is pretty fair. I'm getting a better end of a deal because it's on my view of that player value. And that's how you have to really kind of view it, like from your eyes, right? Your value. Like if you feel like you're overpaying, then you're overpaying. Like it doesn't matter what Dynasty Nerd says or Dynasty Trade Calculator or any other calculator out there. It really comes down to you and the other owner and negotiating. That's where the fair value is going to come into effect. What is your thoughts on them?
So no, I agree with what you're saying almost completely, or I do agree with what you're saying completely. The only thing that I would add is I often will use, especially like a keep trade cut, because we know that a lot of people are going to rely on something like that. I'll use that for trade crafting oftentimes, where I know that someone might be viewing that, and I don't want to say I'd game it, but I'd game it. You know, like I know that there are instances where if you overweigh one side with just a bunch of assets, but a bunch of those assets aren't going to be league winning assets, but that will accumulate to a score, and they try to adjust for that, don't get me wrong, but that'll accumulate into a score that would then be equivalent to some league winner. And then especially if you know that it's like a shallower league or like a 10 teamer with not many guys starting in your lineup, and you know that one singular player is going to make a bigger impact, then I'll use that to my advantage more from a game theory perspective. But I do agree with you completely about, especially for newcomers to the game. Like I started a dynasty league, with buddies maybe like 6 years ago. We call it Dynasty Virgins. That's the name of the league because, no one in the league other than myself had played Dynasty before. And, I think that trade calculators in that environment are really helpful. They're really impactful because no one's played before. They have no idea how to value these guys. And, you also want in leagues like that, you ideally want an environment where people aren't doing like massively crazy things to really make things lopsided for one team, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not saying you veto trades or anything. I'm very, very anti-veto. I'm just saying that you want to give people the tools to be able to make the most rational decisions possible. But, as an additive, like, do you use trade calculators to your advantage like that? Like going to like a keep trade cut or something just to see what it's saying and then see if you can game it a little bit, knowing that someone in your league might be using that tool?
I never use keep trade cut, if I'm being honest. I know we look at it from a website perspective, like kind of like they use that as one of the tools to kind of like see how the pulse is on the community.
100%. Right.
Yeah, I'm a big ADP guy. When I do stuff like that, I'll look at ADP. That's my tool for like, I'll flip that side. And that's a narrative I follow to kind of find that leverage. But like, and you're right, you can craft trades to make it look fair by adding, here's 3 third-round picks. Exactly. Now the calculator says it's fair. Like throwing these 2 turds that nobody wants, like go ahead and flush them. So no, I don't. I use ADP compared to that's the tool that I use because like at Dynasty Nerds, like we run constant like mock drafts like like we run multiple a week. So we have like instant live ADP essentially. So like I like to use that to help craft trades, right? Like, cause I really feel like Dynasty is a game of like, I think in the most simplest form, I describe Dynasty as a very simple game of who to buy, who to sell, who to draft, right? So the draft part is like a certain time of the year. Outside of that, the whole year, all year long, it's who to buy, who to sell. And it's a game of windows, right? And game of opportunities. And it could be the littlest news, the littlest sign in it that changes those windows, right? And like the best dynasty managers are going to buy and sell in those right windows. And ADP kind of gives you a good bird's eye glimpse into that, what the pulse is on the people and what they're thinking. And I use that to kind of craft trades. I'm like, oh, wow, this guy jumped that much. Like, okay, now I got to put that in there, put in the trade calculator, see how it looks in there too. Like, I do use calculators. I don't send screenshots to people like that. Kind of
don't. No one listening. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah.
But I'll do it to more like, okay, I'm going to offer this trade like something I saw on X. Like same thing. I use X as a gauge.
Yes,
I see what everybody's talking about on X. Like, oh, this guy's hot on X. Like, I'm not a believer. Like, I can get under him. Okay, let me put this in the calculator and see if it's like, am I being ridiculous with this offer?
Right.
Sometimes I'll use it like, okay, this is like, I'm not insulting.
Like a gut check. Yeah.
Yeah. Like a gut check. Exactly. Cause like, I send insulting offers at times to kind of gauge the interest. And some people are like, no, dude, absolutely not. And unfortunately, like I play in a league that's like, I'm in 30 dynasty leagues. I think 20 of them are like nerd herd leagues, which are like our dynasty nerds fans. So like they know exactly what I'm thinking at all times. Right. So it's hard for me to get a slip one by them.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I think people will like that discussion because it's a question that gets thrown my way often, you know, how I'm using them or if they should be using them. And I think at least they get some nuance with that kind of answer. All right. So rookie drafts are happening right now. ADP, it's a little bit more concrete, a lot more concrete than it was, you know, immediately after the draft when a lot of these rookie drafts start. What's been the biggest surprise to you about drafts this year? As whether this is an overarching thing, you know, a bird's eye thing, or whether this is a very player specific thing?
Yeah. Right now, like I do feel like it's a weird class 2025 because once you get past like pick number 8, like there's such a broad pool of players that like all those players go in that pool, but it's like an 8-person pool. And it's kind of like beauty of eye of the beholder. So like, I don't see anything crazy there. Like, you know, Travis Hunter has been a guy you can go from anywhere from 1-2 to 1-7. That's been a mix in there. That's all pretty consistent. I think one thing I always think is kind of weird, and I see it again this year, is like Jackson Dart, for example. Like Jackson Dart's going like anywhere from 110 to like 2-1, and that's in Superflex. And I kind of said this as well. Like how many opportunities do you have in Superflex leagues when you're a contender, like a legit contender, like pick 9, 10, 11, 12, and you have an opportunity to get a first round drafted quarterback?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't present itself very often for you. Like it's weird that people still will let that slide by for like a tight end. And listen, I like Colston Loveland's tape. I like Tyler Warren's tape too. They're still tight ends. I just told you earlier, like in the last 30 years, there's been 22 tight ends that have had more than at least 2 top 6 finishes, right?
Yeah.
And we use top 6 as a finish because anywhere tight end from 7 to 15, they're the same guy.
Yeah, it's replaceable, right?
They're replaceable. So like, and I say on the podcast all the time, people don't realize like when you make a trade, like, and I'm using this from a super flex standpoint, right? Because most of my leagues are super flex tight end premium. So if you're in a 1 QB, obviously this doesn't mean anything.
Have you found that more leagues are super flex these days than, especially startups, I would imagine, but that's been a shift too. We didn't really talk about it. I'm sorry for interrupting, but like it's got to be like, what do you think the split is with super flex to 1 now?
All my leagues are super flex.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't even think I'm in a. I think I might be in one single quarterback dynasty league at this point.
I'm in a my 22-year-old league is still that 1 QB.
Yeah. It's got to be the existing ones. I think all the new ones though are basically just all super flex.
I think so too, and which is rightfully so, because like if you want to have like in dynasty, otherwise like quarterbacks become so invaluable, right? Like you could why trade for one? You could literally draft a really good one in the second round or probably third round. So
right. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off track.
You're right though. Like most leagues, like that's kind of the growing of the game altogether though. Like, and same thing with tight end premium. You want to have like every player hold value, right? Like otherwise, like, and what it does is like, you're speaking of rookie drafts, it makes your rookie draft so much more fun, right? Because then like Cam Ward, like you're like, oh dude, like, because it is. What's the most shiny toy in rookie drafts? It's a running back, right? Like it's a one player you could probably plug and play and get instant success out of right away. It's why like I always believe it should be the most fluid position on your dynasty roster because it's the one position you could draft and then plug and play and have a lot of success with. So doing that by making tight end premium, making super flex, it makes your whole dynasty league literally 100 times more fun because the player values in the trades are so drastic. So the one thing about that is the Jackson Dart thing is you don't have a lot of opportunities to get those guys. Even with Cam Ward, you're sitting there dude, I'm Mario and Hampton. Oh, that's a running back. But Cam Ward was just a number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft. Those guys, for the most part, have a lot of success in the NFL from a fantasy football perspective. Outside of a couple guys the dude, oh my God, for the Raiders, I forgot his name already.
Jamarcus Russell.
Marcus Russell, yeah.
Yeah.
For the most part, though, those guys are successful. And when I try to tell people, it's yeah, I don't know. I don't want this guy. He's a quarterback. He's quarterback 18. He's a quarterback 2. Well, I try to say all the time, a quarterback 2, quarterback 18 is a top 60 overall fantasy scorer overall. That's a league winner, right? So if I draft you I don't know if I want Jackson Dart, I'll probably just be quarterbacks 18. He's 21 years old. Yeah, bro, that helps a lot of value, right? That's a lot of value. So seeing guys like him slip are a little surprising. I think RJ Harvey slip into the second round to me is a little crazy. Again, for that instant value. And we live in a world where what have you done for me lately? What have you done for me lately? If you don't produce as a rookie, people are but one of my favorite things in Dynasty is players that I loved in the previous year's draft class that didn't do much, especially tight end, trade for those players the following year for that new shiny toy. Okay, I can have a little patience, right? Not everybody is Malik Neighbors. Not everybody is going to hit the ground running and be the star like these Lad McConkey. So for the most part, it's a weird question to ask because beauty is in the eye of the beholder in this draft class. You might like the tight end, you might like the quarterback, you might love Luther Burden over Matthew Golden, where I'd rather just take Jaden Higgins, personally like that. That's just me. I like Cam Scatterbo, or I'd rather take the shiny running back, like a Caleb Johnson. So it's really hard to answer. It's been pretty chalky, I think, this year. Cause you have Ashton Genty at 1, then you have from Cam Ward to Trevian Henderson, that group. Quinshon Judkins is consistently that in his own tier at 8. And then it gets real wild for those guys from Tyler Warren, Colston Loveland, Matthew Golden, RJ Harvey, Jackson Dart. It's been a real hodgepodge there. I think one thing that's kind of surprising is the value people are passing up at tight end. We saw a lot of tight ends go in the second round of this draft class.
Yes. I agree with this. Yeah. Because to me, an example of this, my model really liked Terrence Ferguson, right? Mm-hmm. So the fact that there's this massive gap in ADP and choose your own adventure with the tight end. I'm just using Ferguson as the example.
He's a great example.
Yeah, right. Just unbelievably athletic tight end, pretty good production profile. A guy fits in an offense that he, maybe it'll take some time, but that's what we get with all tight ends anyway. And so, and maybe he surprises too and just gets work quicker than we expect. But to me, the gap between, and look, Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are both very, 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 very good prospects. But I just don't, I don't see why the gap in ADP exists between them to some of these other tight ends. And again, it could be one of these other tight ends that whoever you end up liking.
Yeah, no, he's a perfect example. I think was he the third tight end off the board, Terrence Ferguson?
Yeah, I think
he was too.
I might have to look that up right now.
It was him, Arroyo,
and Mason Taylor.
Mason Taylor was the third tight end off the board to the Jets. Then it was Terrence Ferguson, and then Arroyo, and then Harold Fannin went really high in the third, who only led college football in receptions and yardage last year, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, no big deal.
You're right, Terrence Ferguson's such a big athletic tight end, right? And I love Colston Loveland. I don't necessarily love his landing spot. I like Tyler Warren a lot. I don't know if I love his landing spot. I love Terrence Ferguson's landing spot. Mm-hmm. He's seen Sean McVay. He's tried to implement the tight end into his offense over since he's been a head coach, whether it be Tyler Higbee, they try to use Colby Parkin,
Gerald Everett. Yeah.
Gerald Everett, Sean, if you obviously Rams fans probably know this, but if you watched the game, Sean McVay, you could tell he's tried to find that tight end to utilize in his offense in such an innovative mind. And I'm a big I think landing spot scheme coaching matters a ton. Like that's like my dynasty rankings a ton. We have like the nerd score, which is what we base off of just film only, right? And we've had a lot of success with that. Like we've outproduced NFL draft capital with that.
Yeah.
And we've just created this year, like, like we got to implement like post draft, like landing spot draft capital. So we call that nerd score plus. But like a guy like Terrence Ferguson, who gets really good draft capital on a team that doesn't have a ton of draft capital, and a really good offense with a really good offensive mind with, an older receiver on the outside and Devontae Adams. Yep. You're getting him in the third round.
Right.
And and like we said, there's only a couple tight ends that are out there that are legit. Like, why aren't you swinging the bat for a guy like that? Just like, if you're going to gamble, right? Like a third round pick has a 7% chance to be a hit, which is meaning you're going to put up either a tight end, like a top fantasy finish. Like you're on the board. You're like, you enter the actual statistical category of being like a wide receiver 2, something like 7% chance. Like, why wouldn't you, instead of taking like a receiver, take it in the 5th round, which is almost like a 1% chance of competing. I think over the last 20 years, there's been like 5 guys that have hit in that category. Like, why wouldn't you take a shallow position value with high draft capital? People are so like, I'll just pass on the tight end. And that's where like I draft a lot of those guys. So like, I am a little shocked to see Arroyo, Terrence Ferguson, even Harold Fannin, and Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor's going on the board a little bit higher, definitely in tight end premium, but even he's going like back end second. But you can get Terrence Ferguson and Elijah Arroyo in the 3rd round of your rookie draft.
Right.
You're out there drafting like 5th round receivers ahead of them. You're like what great value that is. Yeah.
And not only that, but I think that a lot of these tight ends this year, a lot of them don't project well. Obviously like Tyler Warren and Colson Loveland, Tyler Warren's in a really crappy spot for 2025. And then Colson Loveland, like you said, a lot of mouths to feed in that offense, and they still have Cole Kmet. Who knows how that split's going to look. But if you look at some of the other tight ends, Mason Taylor is probably going to be the starter right away. Terrence Ferguson might not do anything this year, but there's still at least an out for that. Even Harold Fannin, man. I mean, your Cleveland Browns, like, I see a scenario. You look at their slot receiver right now. What is it? Jamari Thrash, essentially. Like Stefanski's a 12 personnel guy. Yep. I would imagine that they picked Fannin from the perspective of they want to run a little bit more 12 and they want a little bit more versatility out of that set. And all of a sudden, Fannin could even be more relevant even in 2025 than what people are realizing. And so I think that is a really interesting takeaway, though, is that like, the tight end gap, like I've noticed, and maybe I haven't thought about it like deeply enough, but like I didn't draft a ton of Loveland and Warren in my rookie drafts this season. And I think the reason why is because I was getting a lot of these other guys in like the 3rd round, as opposed to spending that 1st rounder, on those 2.
Yeah, me too. I'm in, like I said, 30 leagues. I have 0 Loveland, 0 Warren shares.
Yeah.
0. Because again, it's like the value wasn't there, because I'm always searching for value. And to me, I knew, like you said, I can get that value later. Like a guy like Harold Fannin at like 3.4, 3.5, where like we saw, like you said, Stefanski likes to utilize the tight end a ton. David Njoku's in the last year of his contract. We don't know if to re-sign him. David Njoku, who over the last couple of years has averaged over 13 points per game at the tight end position, which puts him in that elite category as it is. So, yeah, man, like it's like finding value. And I think that's the one shock, like talking to you about it now, like thinking like, wow, that value there at tight end is so good in rookie drafts right now. People just let it slip by and slip through their fingers.
Yeah, I know Terrence Ferguson was one of the dudes that my model really liked, and I ranked him higher than market. And I know a lot of listeners and consumers were drafting a lot of him. It's interesting though, like I do my rankings immediately at the end of the draft, right? So I can get my guide out and everyone just has them and they're ready to go. So I'm not influenced at all by ADP, which is kind of frightening in a way, right? Because you obviously want to think about value and such whenever you're drafting these guys. But Ferguson was just one of those dudes that really popped, on my end. And I ended up being, I think I'm like 10 spots higher than ADP with him right now.
Dude, I love, and see, I do that for a living. Like I am one of those people like, dude, I don't listen to other Dynasty podcasts. I don't do anything like, and I don't care. Like we always promote like on Dynasty Nerds, like we go left and other people go right. Like I don't care where ADP is or something like that. Like I'm not here to like go with like the herd. Like I'm here to give you my opinion, right? Like why are you listening to me? Because you want to hear my opinion on something. So like if you're all in on Ferguson, then great. And like sometimes it could be wrong, right? Like I was pounding the table to take Clyde Edwards-Helaire 1-1 after his draft capital, blah, blah, blah. But like Also, I was the one that said Devon Achane was one of the best running back prospects I saw for fantasy, and like I would take him like 4th overall. I was the one last year saying like, again, where everybody else wasn't going that way, I was like, dude, Ladd McConkey is such a good route runner. He gets open. He's going to be a PPR machine. And like, I would take him as like my 4th receiver overall. I would take him probably 5th, 6th range, somewhere in that range overall. And he capitalizes. So like, right. I'm with you. Like, I'm not overly concerned about like ADP. Like, I'm concerned about like what my eyes tell me and what I envision for success.
And I think it matters more from a rookie draft perspective to have that attitude, right? Like in a startup, you're obviously trying to extract ADP, and there's more instances where you're going to be able to do that, right? So it's a little bit easier to match ADP and kind of look at where things are at to say, oh, okay, I can wait another round to get this guy, and I'm just trying to extract value. You're not really able to do that in rookie drafts because, number one, they're going to be a little bit more unpredictable because the player pool is just not as big. It's not as vast. And so if you get a dude in your league or a woman in your league who wants to draft RJ Harvey, 105, and you were waiting on RJ Harvey, or you pass on him because you had 2 picks in the first round or what have you, then that's just the way that it goes in rookie drafts. You don't see that as frequently, in startups necessarily. But yeah, sorry, did you want to add to that?
Oh no, yeah, and I agree too. Like the NFL draft, a lot of people will pivot off the NFL draft, not realizing these teams are drafting players that fit their scheme.
Exactly.
The tape. Like I'm a big tape guy, right? That's my that's how I've kind of like made my name in the business. Like just watching tape. Like what do my eyes tell me? Like I'm not smarter than anybody else. It's just like I just watch it and give my opinion. Like I don't know how you guys don't see what I see, kind of thing. Right. You know what I mean? So like I think some people like lose focus on like. NFL teams don't care about fantasy. Like they want a guy and listen, NFL GMs love speed. They love speed. So they're going to draft a guy just specifically because he could take the top off a defense, right? Like he's going to fit their scheme well. It's kind of like somebody like, wow, I can't believe Quinshon Judkins went ahead Trevion Henderson in the NFL draft. Well, Quinshon Judkins fits Kevin Stefanski's scheme better than Trevion Henderson. It doesn't mean he'll be a better running back necessarily. It's just he fits that scheme better. And sometimes people will let players like that, like when you see like a John Ross go top 10 to the Bengals and people are like, oh, top 10 NFL draft capital. Like, meanwhile, the tape tells you, this isn't a really good fantasy asset, right? Like Darius Hayward Bays, the John Rosses, guys along those lines. So I think sometimes as well, ADP could pivot like real quickly after the NFL draft because of that. And it does matter for something like a guy like RJ Harvey. Like it matters, right? For some people, but sometimes it could also have a negative effect as well on people's minds when they see a guy go like Savion Williams goes in the 3rd round to the Packers. Like, oh wow, 3rd round draft capital. Like, listen, bro, don't do it. Don't do it.
100%. Yeah. I mean, there's an inverse correlation in the early rounds of drafts of wide receiver speed and them being basically wide receiver speed inflates that those players and they get overdrafted. I want to talk about some individual players in this rookie class that are a little bit more controversial. It sounds like you're in on RJ Harvey, that you're higher than the market, or you're getting a lot of RJ Harvey. Why is that?
Yeah, man, it's RJ Harvey was somebody like I thought his tape was just okay. I was real negative on him because he was a 24-year-old running back too. Like that I was like, dude, he's 24 years old. He catches the ball well. He's got really good speed, but dude, he's 24 years old, and like it was such a strong running back class. It's like, okay, RJ Harvey kind of falls by the wayside, but I was really, really intrigued by who Denver was going to take at running back. And that meant a lot. Like that meant a lot to me. Like scheme and system matters. I've said over the years, like, is Alvin Kamara the best running back in the NFL? No, but his scheme and the system that he played in made him literally like the best running back since LaShawn McCoy.
Right. And what he brings to the table and matching with that. Yeah.
And that matters, right? So like when RJ Harvey goes in the 2nd round, then you hear other teams were like mad that the Broncos took him. Like that means a lot. I mean, Denver, Sean Payton, his running back magic, he's done over the years with guys like Darren Sproles, Pierre Thomas. Like he finds the juice in the running backs, and Harvey fits everything that Sean Payton wants. And he's got no competition at all. Javonte Williams leaves. Audric Estime he didn't even suit up in a playoff game.
Yeah, he's a one-dimensional back too. Yeah.
Very one-dimensional. The other guy is like 5'8", Jaleel McLaughlin, right? So like RJ Harvey is the GOAT in that offense, which doesn't have a lot of weapons outside of Marvin Mims, and they just drafted Pat Bryant in the 3rd round, and they have Cortland Sutton on the last year of the deal. He has a beast of an offensive line. They had like one of the best run blocking offensive lines in all of football out there in Denver. So like when I see draft capital, talent, and again, system and land spot, that perks up my ears a ton. And like one of my co-hosts, Garrett Price, he's like, dude, but you didn't have like, we know historically when you bump up players because of draft capital, it usually doesn't work out well historically. And I get that. I was like, but one of the reasons I'm drafting RJ Harvey, I want to take him high is, yes, he's 24. I don't see a long-term window there. But again, most running backs only live in this 2 to 4 year window for the most part. Everybody else is an outlier. And I think, again, too many people chase outliers in Dynasty as well. They're not realizing they're outliers. For me, what I love about RJ Harvey is he's got a great landing spot, right, in Denver. If you would have won the 4th round of Denver, it would have been a great landing spot, right? He gets a 2nd round draft capital in Denver. What I love about RJ Harvey is what he can bring to the table immediately to a contender, which is we're going to get him in that like 9, 10, 11, 12 range. But more importantly is what can RJ Harvey do for me after this year in season, the return that I'm going to be able to get on RJ Harvey. If he produces at a running back 1 level, which is what people are going to salivate over, a rookie running back who's giving you running back 1 numbers in this offense, like you're going to get, goes back to what I said with value, like the value on that return you're going to get on RJ Harvey if you want to trade him after this year, like kind of like a Bucky Irvin this year. Like look what Bucky Irvin did. I think RJ Harvey could outproduce Bucky Irvin's numbers last year. I think RJ Harvey has a chance to finish as a RB1 this year. And I think it's very strong because on touches, and touches matter in football, right? We saw a guy like right before Bijan got in Atlanta, Mike Davis, right?
Yeah.
Davis is the most jag of all running backs.
Yeah.
He was running back 12 overall that year because he just got all the touches and all the catches. That's going to be RJ Harvey to the highest level possible. So like, not only do you see a solid player that fits a scheme really well, who's going to get a ton of touches, I'm going to get him pick anywhere from 110 to 2-2 is where he's going. The return I'm going to get on that is going to be a first plus or a young receiver plus that's already proven.
Yeah, I think that's really, really key to the discussion because the way I've sort of analyzed this is that Sean Payton's backfields usually see insane target shares. If you look back to 2011, which is usually where I date my data back to, he's had no worse than his backfield ranking 6th in running back target share in a single season, which is absolutely wild, right? It's crazy. And so like that's 13 years worth of data and he's always top 6 in running back target share. And so I think that we could sit here and like maybe say, you know, RJ Harvey's not Alvin Kamara in terms of his receiving skills coming out. But if you look at the backfield right now, it's Jaleel McLaughlin and Audric Estime. RJ Harvey's the best pass catcher in space immediately, you know, in that backfield. So he's going to see a lot of that work more than likely. And so you can see that path then in year 1. And so I think that if you then don't see, you know, unbelievably good pass catching skill or great pass catching skills from him in year 1, like you're saying, you have an opportunity to flip him after this year if need be, right? Or if he does show off and he does blow up, then you get to keep him and you get another few years of RJ Harvey in a great Broncos offense. So that's been the piece for me as well with him is that, you know, you can say what you want about, and look, there were some red flags for me analytically with him where, you know, he's older. And to be fair though, I like to associate the journey of a player with that age. Like he started out as a quarterback. He tore his ACL at one point, right? Like there's a reason, at least some reason as to why the late career production happened, you know, for a guy like Harvey. When there isn't that reason, it's a lot more difficult to buy into that player, right?
Yeah, I think when people were like, well, dude, like Jaden, like I was really, after watching like Jaden Daniels tape, for example, like I was like, dude, when I got done watching his tape, I was like, I'm in some dynasty leagues where like if I had to 1-1, like I would really consider taking Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. Like I really would. And people like the argument's like, well, he was only at that 1 year of like being really good. I'm like, well, yeah, that's okay. Like I expect players to get better. Like,
right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're supposed to get better. Like that's all. Like people break out at some point. So you're right. Like following that path of like why they got to that point is also, it's crucial.
Yeah. So like, look, his age is a thing. Like I'm not dismissing that. It's a thing in the model that I use and in the ZAP model. And it's a thing that, you know, we would ideally want early career production, you know, in college, but you know, sometimes at least if there is that reason, it's a little bit easier to buy into. One guy that I definitely want to talk about is Emeka Egbuka because, you know, landing spot wise, I think it's been mixed, in terms of the way that folks have felt about him. How do you feel about him as a talent, and how do you feel about him as a pick in rookie drafts right now because of that landing spot? Yeah,
2 thumbs up on both categories here.
Nice.
One being a player, like I feel like, you know, outside of Ashton Genty, there might not be a safer player in this draft in my eyes than Emeka Egbuka, right? Like he's not that player that does anything like top tier, like he's the best at, but he does everything above average. Like he's a really good route runner. He's got really good hands. He really works the sideline really well, a really smart football player. So when I see players like that tells me that's success, right? Kind of like a Devontae Smith, like a person like he does everything really, really well. Kind of like a Chris Godwin, even, he was
actually one of the comps, and the analytical comps in my model was actually one of them was Chris Godwin.
He's my comp for him as well. And I think people fail to remember last year, up until Chris Godwin got hurt, the week before that, Chris Godwin was wide receiver 1 overall. All even the point, like it was him and Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase passed him, I think, the week before he got hurt. But it was only like by a couple points at that point as well. So like people are like, oh, I don't love the landing spot. What don't you love? Mike Evans is 31 years old. He only has this year guaranteed on his deal. Chris Godwin is 29 years old. Baker Mayfield has elevated his game finally to another level. Mike Evans probably won't be on the team next year because they did draft Emeka in the first. And Baker has shown in this offense, he could support a high-end wide receiver that doesn't have those elite athletic traits like a Malik Neighbors out there or a Jamar Chase. He still can produce at a high level, kind of like a la like an Ahmad-Ra St. Brown would you probably like hope that Emeka Buka-Sealan would be. So for me, I love the player because like this is a guy who can get open, which means he can get targets. He has sure hands. So for me, I like that in a prospect where I can come away and I feel safe, right? Like I feel safer about Emeka Buka than a lot of these other receivers. He's my wide receiver 3 in my rookie rankings right now.
Love it.
And I absolutely love the landing spot, man. He's got a secure quarterback. He's got a good offensive scheme. He has a clear path to be the number 1 guy here in the very near future as well. Like, cause I'm always looking for like clear paths, right? Like same thing with like Devontae Smith. He gets drafted to get AJ Brown. And like, oh dude, I love the player, but AJ Brown's the alpha there, right? That kind of hurts a little bit. It's why I'm kind of down on Matthew Golden, to be honest with you as well. It's like, where's that path for fantasy football success? Because when I'm watching rookies and I'm giving my perspective on it, it's not from an NFL perspective. It's literally from a dynasty fantasy football perspective. Like, who's going to give me points? Like, I'm trying to get the most points possible for the longest time possible. That's how I look at these players. And I think Emeka has a really, really good path to produce at a high level for you. And even if it's like, dude, if he turns out to be like Robert Woods, where he's like wide receiver 13, 14, 15 for like 8 years, that's a huge, massive win in Dynasty.
Yeah, Woods was his top comp. Woods is a really, really close analytical comp with Igbuka, but Godwin was another one that ended up popping for him. I want to ask you about the Cam Skadaboo versus Bashal Tutin dilemma that people are going to be facing in the second round of these rookie drafts. 2 early day 3 picks, 2 very, very different running backs as well, and 2 situations where you can make arguments either way depending on how things sort of like boil down and work themselves out in Jacksonville. So sounds like you're in on Cam Skadaboo, but how does that compare and how does he compare to you to Bashal Tutin?
Yeah, I'm a big Cam Skadaboo fan, so it's kind of hard to like ask. Like it's night and day when I see it with those 2 players. Like I love when I can sit down and watch film and have fun doing it. Like I'm excited to turn on the next tape, and that's Cam Skadaboo. Like the guy's got really, like people talk like he's slow, but he's got really good short bursts, like which is what you want. He's probably got the best contact balance outside of Ashton Genty. He's on another offense that, the offensive line's not great. It's been proven, but not a lot of weapons there. It does suck because I do like Tyrone Tracy. He was actually one of our sneaky guys last year. I was like, dude, I really like Tyrone Tracy. I have so many shares of him because I was on the podcast saying, hey, you have to draft this guy. And he showed us last year. What impressed me the most is like his vision for like playing running back for such a short period of time. Like his vision was really well out there. But that's fine because a two running back offense can work. So I think Cam Skadaboo for me is I liked his tape so much. I would clearly take him like probably in that anywhere from that 2.3 to 2.5 range in my rookie draft, where Bashal Tutin's probably at the back end of my second. What I like about Tutin though is he's an explosive running back, right? He's got that 4.32 speed. He's a very solid pass catcher. We know he's got the fumbling issues. He had 9 fumbles in college, which is not good. He fumbled his first carry, which kind of sucks. But like, I think Jacksonville, again, I try to follow some tea leaves, and I think Jacksonville tried to tell us something where like they took Tutin and they also took LaQuint Allen. Both guys are very viable in the passing game. And the running backs they have now in Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby are not that. They're not viable. And when we look at Liam Cohen, he likes to do a lot of motion, right? Create space for players. And that's where Tootin thrives, right? Like in an outside zone scheme, get him some space, let him kind of like flourish there. And I think Liam Cohen's probably looking for something along those lines. We might not see Tootin produce early because Travis Etienne's contract is guaranteed this year, picking up that 5-year option. But I think there is at least a path for him to kind of be that guy, kind of like even like an like a Bucky Irvin, where it's like maybe you have to wait till like week 8, week 9, somewhere on those lines. But there is a path because speed at running back like that's a huge component. And the fact that he went in the 4th and Cam Skattebo went in the 4th, like, I mean, Cam Skattebo was just a couple picks away from being a day 2 guy. I think those guys were kind of hurt also by the flux of running back talent that was in the draft. Like people were sitting there in the draft and like in the 3rd round going, man, like I really want to draft these running backs are probably a little higher on board, but there's only like one more cornerback left, one more defensive lineman or offensive lineman, but there's like 8 running backs we like here. So we can wait till the next round and grab that guy. And I think that's why we saw Tootin, Skattebo, and honestly a run of those running backs.
Yeah. Woody Marks and ETN. Yeah.
And so, Woody Marks is an example for is like a guy like the Texans gave a 3rd round pick next year for him too. So like when you look at draft capital, they used a 4th and a 3rd round pick on Woody Marks. So Tootin for me and Skattebo, like both really good upside players in completely different ways. It sucks because I think Cam Skattebo is a very good pass catcher and he can run routes for his size as well. But Tyrone Tracy is a former receiver and he can run routes as well. So like that, the Tyrone Tracy does hurt Skattebo a little bit for me. And it's why I have less shares than I thought I would have. I only have 1 share and I love the player. I don't know how I would lean that way. I think on positional value, JJ, I might lean the value on Tootin towards the back end of the 2nd. And instead of taking Skattebo, grab like a Jaden Higgins instead.
Right.
Something along those lines.
Yeah. I think that to me, Tootin has, I think probably a little bit bigger of a ceiling just because of that breakaway speed and because of what he can do. If that backfield shapes up the way that it could, like, there's a non-zero chance that they trade Travis Etienne before the season starts. Okay, let's say that happens, and obviously there's a clear path. But if they don't, then I do think that long term, what they're thinking was exactly what you're saying, where Tootin's a good pass catcher, a really solid pass catcher who can create these big plays and be a good change of pace, while Tank Bigsby is more of that early down guy for them. And realistically, that tandem makes a lot of sense. Like the two of those backs. Similarly, I think Skattebo and Tyrone Tracy make a lot of sense, where Tracy is sort of the Tootin in that example, right? But both of them bring a little bit of a different skill set to the table. But yeah, I mean, Skattebo, at the end of the day, he looked good in my model because he probably had the 2nd best production profile in the class behind only Genty. Like it's pretty wild. I do wish that the 40 was a little bit better and that we got, a little bit better of a speed score, because there is a little bit of that correlation, but that's also not totally his game anyway.
Yeah, but it works on tape. People see that and like, 4.6, like 4, like that. Yeah. Like, I know it sounds slow when you hear guys run 4 through what you want, but like that still works. If you watch Skattebo's tape, he was able to get to the edge and still outrun defenders. Yeah. Like it's not like he's like some sludge out there, right? Like he's like he's running molasses. Like he's fast enough, right? Like and how many, like you don't see a ton of those breakaway runs anyways for a lot of these guys. So for me, I'm with you. Like all of us were really big on Cam Skattebo, and like we didn't understand how nobody else was like in on his tape, because watching the tape and what your eyes tell you, like this guy is a baller.
Yeah, he's fun. He's a lot of fun. I can't wait to see him play. All right, I don't want to keep you too long, but I do want to hear if you have any sell candidates right now that seem obvious to you. You talk about those windows, you talk about these time periods where guys seem obvious to trade away or to trade for. And trading for, I think, is the less controversial, take as analysts, right? Like, here are some buy candidates. We don't hear nearly as much crap thrown at us whenever we say, go trade for this guy, but we'll hear more when we say trade away this guy. So I'm going to put you on the spot and say maybe 1 or 2 guys that you'd be trading away right now.
Yeah. It's always like, again, that's my dynasty model, who to buy, who to sell, who to draft, right? Like, so like, were those windows. Like you said, buys, it's easy. Like I think there's some good sneaky buys out there, like Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Wright. I think are some really good buys out there. Yeah. But a sell for me is going to be kind of a shock to some. Now, I think I want to preface this by saying sometimes when you sell, you say to sell a player, it doesn't necessarily mean you think that player is a bad player. You don't think he's valuable. It just means you feel like his market is overvalued, right? So like when I talk about buy and sell windows, like those sell windows mean something to me. And my sell right now is CJ Stroud in super flex leagues. Even as a rookie, I was like, from what I saw on tape, I was like, man, I think CJ Stroud, like the most of his value comes from his age, right? Like he's a 21, 22-year-old quarterback. He just finished as a rookie quarterback, 22, but like he doesn't offer a ton of running upside. And that, like from a quarterback perspective, that's going to limit you. Like if you don't offer a ton of rushing upside, it's going to limit you. And right now his ADP is 23 overall. Like, and that's like really high in Superflex tight end premium drafts. And for me, I like to call stuff like that, like tearing down a little bit. Like, okay, who can I get for CJ Stroud? Again, because I know everybody else loves CJ Stroud and I like CJ Stroud. So who can I get? And one of the perfect examples I would say is like CJ Stroud is why I would say sell him is like you can go out there and get a quarterback that's going to probably perform if not equal to better than CJ Stroud from a fantasy football perspective and then get plus. And my prime example is, I'd love to see what his ADP is now. They just signed a contract extension.
I knew you were going to go this direction. This is a perfect example to go.
Yeah. I've been saying, if you listen to my show for a while, I've been saying for 2 years, Brock Purdy is the best value in Superflex. I remember going like, I was hanging out with Ryan McDowell, something. I'm like, Ryan, I was like, you know what the best value in Superflex right now is? I was like, it's Brock Purdy. Like you can get him for like, he's going so late. People want to trade him because they think he's Mr. Irrelevant, but like the dude produces, right? Yeah. So when CJ Stroud has ADP of 23 overall, again, we're talking about like dynasty trade calculators, how I use ADP. I look and I see ADP. Brock Purdy has ADP of 45th overall. That's a couple rounds later. That means I could probably turn CJ Stroud into Brock Purdy plus like a 27 first. Like one, I love the 27 class. It's been a strategy I've been doing a lot lately. Honestly, I've been using our tools is getting a lot of 27 draft capital. But like, can I get Brock Purdy and a first? Can I get Brock Purdy, honestly, plus anything for CJ Stroud? CJ Stroud's 23, Brock Purdy's 25. And honestly, since Brock Purdy took over, which was week 13 in 2022, from week 13 on, Brock Purdy was quarterback 9. Last year, or 2023, he was QB 6. Last year in 2024, weeks 1 through 17, he was quarterback 12. So Brock Purdy's been a quarterback 1 every single time he's taken a snap on the field throughout the year. CJ Stroud has not. Now, they bring in Jalen Noel, they bring in Jaden Higgins. Will they help him? Yeah, but he also had Tank Dell and Nico Collins, right? So like that didn't make a world of difference. I just think CJ Stroud, like he lives in that quarterback like 18 territory. And I'm sorry, like if you're going to be 23 overall in Superflex, like I need better than that. Like I need Brock Purdy numbers. Like if Brock Purdy was going 23, that makes sense to me. So like same thing, like guys like Jordan Love are going behind CJ Stroud in that category. Bo Nix is going behind CJ Stroud, and I know he's a little bit older, but again, he offers some rushing upside. Yeah, offense. Like to me, like it's just like if the name value outweighs the production, I'd rather just go ahead and trade that player and move down. So CJ Stroud is one of those guys I believe that I would be selling if I had any shares of him.
Yeah, it's a good call out. Especially when you could even just look at redraft rankings right now, and Brock Purdy is ranked ahead and gets drafted ahead of CJ Stroud in redraft. So like even in 2025 alone, you're going to get an edge with that kind of move. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Makes a lot of sense. Rich, I really appreciate your time, man. This was a lot of fun. Really great chopping it up. Let everyone know what you're working on, where they can find you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, dynastynerds.com is where you can find all our content. If you just look at any kind of social media platform, if you put in Dynasty Nerds, you're going to find us. Like we put out content every single day.
You're everywhere.
Yeah. I'm at Dynasty Rich. I'm on there. Like I don't post a ton, but I answer questions on there. Like I've gotten away from posting a lot on X and Twitter.
I can't blame you. You.
Like I've moved to the point, like I like to give my opinion on the podcast and everything.
That's how I do too. Yep.
Yeah. Every time I want to like tweet something out, I'm like, oh no, I got to say that for the podcast.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I'm a big podcast guy, but yeah, I mean, again, we're always there. Like I guess I'll pimp the Dynasty GM. It's our app. I mentioned the trade calculator in there. that the app has so many different tools inside. My favorite's the league analyzer, because like in Dynasty, it's so easy to get stuck in the middle, right? Like it's so easy. So like we try to give you a bird's eye view of where you stand in your league, because I think people get artificially inflated in Dynasty leagues, because what you don't realize is like in Dynasty, teams are tanking. They're trying to lose. So you have like 2 to 3 teams that are tanking. So that's going to artificially push you up in the standings. Like when your team's just a middling team, and there's nothing worse in Dynasty than being stuck in the middle. So the Dynasty Jam, it's in your app store. Check it out. Check out Dynasty Nerds. Again, our goal, like I said in the beginning, is like just to help you be a better Dynasty player overall, and give you the best educated guess on the decisions that you want to make in a game that has a ton of variances, right? Like we just want to be right more than we're wrong. And for 11 years now, we've been right more than we're wrong. And that's where we're going to kind of keep striving to be, keep innovating. We have a lot of cool new tools coming out this summer. One thing I promise you at Dynasty Nerds as well is like, we're always innovating. We're constantly dropping new things in the app, on the website, to make you a better overall Dynasty player.
Yeah, that's awesome. You guys are doing great work. Great people as well. So definitely check them out. I'm on Twitter at LateRoundQB. Like Rich said, I won't be throwing takes out there super often. You'll find that on the podcast. So make sure you're subscribed. Also, the Late Round Draft Guide is available. So check that out for pre-order. That's going to launch July 1st. That's for redraft purposes, not for dynasty purposes, but check it all out over on lateround.com. Otherwise, everyone, enjoy your holiday weekend, and thanks for tuning in.